Dr. James had to video today's presentation as his family was in need of him. We will miss him, but he did tape it for us. The presentation, May 18th, will be live with Q&A. You will receive a copy of today's webinar to share with friends and family, and please respond to the email with any questions you have for part 2, May 18th. Thank you again for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.
Hello, everybody. My name is James, and I am so deeply grateful to have the honor and the blessing to serve you today. Good afternoon, good evening. Oh my gosh, I have been looking forward to this for months, ever since we started talking about this caregiving, thriving experience that we're going to be having today. And I hope you are ready to kind of put your guard down, open your heart just a little bit more, not in the way that you do for the people that you serve every day. I want you to consider opening your heart for you, so I can serve you. What I have learned about the Kensington community in my nearly 3 years of working and with you and getting to learn about who it is that you are and what you do every single day, that is literally, oh my gosh, taken me to places with feeling the kind of love, the kind of compassion, the kind of inspiration. Just knowing who you are and what is it you do every day has literally changed my life. And I know you change lives every single day. So thank you for the work that you do. Quick background about me. So my background is naturopathic family medicine. I practice integrated family medicine for over 20 years, really specializing in epigenetics, longevity, integrated mental health. And basically, I'm a person who loves to share ideas and practices in the medicine of primary care coming through. One of the modalities is our self-care. So we're going to learn a lot of cool things today, and we're also going to have a part 2 coming up later in May that we'll be sending out announcements for to make sure you don't forget it. But today, this is going to be about really getting clear about the way that we're feeling. And you probably, my goodness, you know how you're feeling. But sometimes just having words to attach to how we're feeling can be healing. One thing I've learned as a person who's been in healthcare as long as I have is that sometimes as we are giving to our patients, to this community, there's things like compassion fatigue. There's things like empathy burnout. And these are kind of new terms. And when I share that, I'd love for you to just kind of go, oh my gosh, compassion fatigue. I know that I come to work every single day, or the things I do every single day are always coming from a place of compassion. And they're always this place that I just assume that I'm just going to have this ability to give and to care. But I think the coupling of what we've been through this last couple of years with the pandemic, that in integration of what it is that we do every single day here at Kensington, oh my goodness, you probably have been feeling, as I have with my patients, just another level of, I've got to find new practices. I've got to prioritize my self-care. I've got to feel okay about putting myself as number one on my to-do list and really giving myself permission to begin each and every day saying, all right, before I go out there and give to the world, I am going to dedicate some practice time in the morning, throughout the day, just little things that I can do that we're going to talk about today that will help to kind of reignite that love for what it is that we do, help us to feel empowered that we can continue to do it and the way we've become accustomed to that level of excellence. But also, make this not about, gosh, one more thing that you've got to put on your to-do list. Like, oh my gosh, James, you have no idea between what I'm doing at work, what I'm doing at home, what I'm doing with my own family, what I'm doing with everything that I do. I can't really think about adding more to that. So we're going to do this. I love to say this is self-love and self-care at the speed of your life. So before we begin, I would love for you just to kind of take a couple minutes and follow me in a breathing practice. Now, you've probably been reading more about breathing, because more and more as you look at the research and what is happening to us as life gets faster and more of us are feeling like we're either in future fear, we're in past regret, and we're not as present as we'd like to. And studies show that we're only present right now roughly between 47 and 49% of our life. Just think about that. So that means half of our life, we are someplace else, past or future, and we're not present. And what the research tells us is that when we are living that way, and listen, you are not alone in that. The studies show that coming out of this last couple of years, one of the things that we are all presently dealing with, they said something greater than 95% of the world population is dealing with some kind of trauma, an emotional trauma, where we had for days and days and days, it turned into weeks, it turned into months, and literally turned into years. We didn't know what was going to happen. And every single day we heard more and more of the tragic news and the bad news and what that did to our mind, what it did to our immune system, what it did to our hearts. It really put us in a place of fight or flight. We literally were living in a heightened level of stress, which really manifested itself like a true trauma. And now we're kind of in this PTSD experience. We're looking back and we're kind of going, oh my goodness, how do I reorient myself? How do I begin again? And that's really what today is about. We're going from that survival mode that we've been in and really re-engaging with a thriving. Bringing that self-love back in, turning that light back on, feeling like we can become present again. So in the name of presence, I'm going to take you through a simple breathing practice. And why I believe this is such a critical part of life is that we know that when we've been through what we've been through these last couple of years, and for many of us, you say, oh gosh, before the pandemic, my life was already really stressful. I already had a lot going on. So for many of us, this has just been an escalation of stress. I want you to know that I hear you and I feel you. We all have had some experiences over these last few years that remind us of so many things. Maybe through our whole life, we're going, I just need to really find my rebalance place again. I need to reclaim moving from having routines in my life that I used to depend on, and I want to bring them into rituals. I want to give myself an opportunity to engage with life again so I can bring back some of the gratitude, some of the joy, and I can really start to heal. I can start to heal again. And, beginning with vulnerability, a word that I think gets a lot more attention these days, and thank goodness, because as Brené Brown, the author and the writer, the speaker, is what she says is that vulnerability is the birthplace of common humanity. And all of us here in this community, as we look around and we see each other, the things that we share when we're together in our communities, when we share things with, just through digital platform and sharing ideas through the community here, we are really probably starting to see that there's a language that's forming. And this language is about vulnerability, like, oh my goodness, the things that I'm experiencing these days, and more people are being willing to share their story. And when we share our story and we start to talk openly about the challenges that we're feeling, the losses that we've had, sometimes just feeling that sense of, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do right now. I'm just trying to get through the day. As much as that's really, really hard, it also is really, really healing, isn't it? When you feel like you're not alone. I feel like what this time has given me personally is a deeper sense of belonging. I have my family of origin, and I also have my family of choice. And in that experience of vulnerability, I find that I get an opportunity to share language with people, and I feel like, oh my goodness, yes, there are people who feel what I'm feeling. So today, when you are watching and you're maybe sharing ideas, writing things down, maybe texting people, sharing notes here in the comments, please, 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 please feel free to write out some of the things that are coming up for you. So we can together look at those words and say, okay, good, I'm not alone. Okay, thank you. What I'm feeling isn't strange. I'm not an outlier here. I'm right in the middle in this sort of mind-body reconnection to myself, and the people who I work alongside of are feeling the same way. There is so much healing that happens with our common humanity. So with our breathing practice, this is an engagement of our vagus nerve. Now, the vagus nerve is associated a lot with meditation, associated a lot with yoga. It's associated with simple mindfulness practices, and absolutely, it's associated with vulnerability, because studies show that when we engage our vagus nerve, which really runs from the base of our brain, runs down through by our heart, through our lungs, down into our diaphragm. It's sometimes called vagus for vagabond. That's where it actually originates from, because it's the wandering nerve. And as the wandering nerve, it passes through so many parts of our body associated with managing stress, managing emotions and stress, managing how we breathe, managing our heart rate. So you can only imagine when the vagus nerve is working well, a lot of integration happens with our mind and our body. And in that integration, a greater sense of peace, a greater sense of balance, and a reclamation project. That's kind of what I've been thinking more and more these days. Like my life right now is kind of like a reclamation project. And I'm reclaiming parts of myself that got lost these last couple of years. Do you ever feel that way? You're like, oh gosh, you know what? I'm reclaiming this friendship. I'm reclaiming this ritual. I'm reclaiming this prioritization of my self-care. And hopefully you're reclaiming faith in yourself and a sense of hope. You know, this breathing practice has been used by Navy SEALs literally for decades to help them when they're in the middle of something really, really hard, really stressful. As you can well imagine, Navy SEALs, when something heavy duty is coming their way, it comes in a split second. Life and death things are happening on literally right in that moment. And they have to figure out how they can integrate mind-body balance. And how they do that is by getting the vagus nerve to integrate the mind and the body, the stress systems, and bringing us back to something called equanimity. Great Scrabble word. And equanimity, think about it as how quickly can I recognize that I'm lost or out of balance? And in that recognition, how quickly can I come back to center, to come back home, to come back to my heart? Equanimity. So here's the practice. Basically, it's a 4-second inhalation through our nose, and then we hold it for 4 seconds, and then we release it for 4 seconds slowly. We take a 4-second break, and then we repeat. We're gonna do it 3 times. Okay, everybody, you know what? Let's just jump right in. Here we go. Ready? Begin. 4-second inhalation. Hold. Release. Beautiful. Ready again? Inhalation through the nose. 4. Hold. Release for 4. Beautiful. Ready for one more? Here we go. Hold. Release. I know we did a little bit longer, that last one. I think we all could use that, right? Now, the beauty of that is that when we do that simple breathing practice, now I'm going to share some science with you. So as we start to talk openly about this reclamation project, this moving from surviving to thriving, you are going to say, oh my goodness. All right, so that 4-second breathing practice that Navy SEALs do, I could do this on the way to work. I could do this when I get to the parking lot before I head into work. I can do this just before I get ready to go inside. And if you're going inside, you live with yourself, and it's a great way to kind of stop the human doing and allow for the human being to begin in your life. Or if you're coming home to people that you love, you've got a partner, lover, family, and you just want to make sure that you walk in and you're present. Remember, we're only present about 47 to 49% of our life. That breathing practice will get us back to presence. And why is presence so important? Well, presence is associated with lowering anxiety, lowering stress, lowering incidence of depression and sadness, and really augmenting all the neurochemicals, all the things in our mind and in our brain that literally buoy up a sense of hope, a sense of possibility, a sense of kindness, a sense of, okay, I'm back. That little practice can literally do all of those things. And that's why it's so amazing. So I'm going to share with you what you just accomplished. So when you did this, you increased your positive emotions. You actually helped to disengage centers associated with emotional pain. Oh my goodness. Remember we said a couple minutes ago this whole idea of sort of a PTSD, a low-grade PTSD that is happening post-epidemic, what's been happening on the planet, all the challenges we're having with just, let's call it the stuff that's going on. Oh my goodness. So all that trauma, we get a chance to help kind of cushion that trauma. Number 3, it actually improves our level of empathy. So we talked a little bit about, just a few minutes ago, about empathy burnout, compassion fatigue. Well, part of what's going on with that is the fact that under the stress, we're not breathing the way that we would physiologically best be served to breathe. When we're under stress, we shallow breathe. But when we're more mindful, we actually bring our breath all the way down into our diaphragm by engaging the vagus nerve. And that in and of itself improves our ability to feel empathy, to recognize empathy, to restore our empathy. And in the world that we live in at Kensington, empathy is a superpower. That's why we chose to be here and why it is that we are the best in the world at what we do. But I want you to know that regardless of how incredible we all are, and I say we, I'm really speaking to you. I'm acknowledging the incredible nature of you. There's no way. Gosh, I get a little emotional here. There's no way we can keep doing this every single day over and over and over again and expect to do it with a level that we're come accustomed to without replenishing our own fuel source, without filling up our own cup, without giving our heart an opportunity to exhale. That breathing practice gives empathy a chance to come back stronger. And let us just kind of remember this one thing with compassion fatigue. We often think of compassion like when you hear that word, where's the first place that you go? Most people go, oh, it's this person. It's this person I love. It's this patient that I work with. It's their family. Of course, that's where we go when we think of compassion. But self-compassion, as John Kabat-Zinn, the phenomenal researcher who's been a mindfulness practitioner for, I think it's close to 45 years now, professionally, he said that if your compassion practice does not include yourself, then your compassion is incomplete. Your compassion is incomplete. Think about that. So self-compassion encourages 3 practices. Number 1, a level of self-awareness, like, okay, I'm toast. If you ever worked in a restaurant, right? When you said, I'm in the weeds. Well, we've been in the weeds for a long time. And then they say, oh my goodness, I'm toast. And that's when the head of the restaurant, the chef, whatever, says, go outside, take a few minutes. I'm sure here, when you know that you've hit the wall, someone says, hey, listen, take a few moments. And that's when this breathing practice can be critical to help us re-engage. So we know that self-awareness is number 1, self-2 is mindfulness, and number 3 is simply giving yourself the opportunity to breathe. Simply the opportunity to breathe. Those 3 things literally have been shown to re-engage that level of compassion, starting with ourselves and that self-recognition, so we can go back out in the world and serve in the way that we're accustomed to, but not lose ourselves in the process. Interesting enough, and this is something near and dear to all of our hearts, when we do a proper breathing practice, proper mindfulness practice, just like we did, you're going to see that this actually has structurally benefits the gray matter in our brain. And we certainly know through what is at Kensington how critical that is. Memory, of course, helping us with fighting brain inflammation as well, but also structurally changing and helping us to be that much more emotionally equipped for the times that we're living in. So we have more resilience emotionally. We can handle the challenges, but also we have some more optimism. And when gray matter is being supported, our creativity and our sense of joy and our sense of possibility, all those things increase as well. So that breathing practice with mindfulness actually helps our gray matter to come back stronger. Number 5, it actually protects our DNA, so we're aging in a lot more healthy way. Number 6, it's going to improve your sleep. How cool is that? Oh my goodness. Number 7, this one, when I was writing my notes for today's opportunity, I was thinking, I'm not sure if this is big for you, but it's amazing how many people, and I work with a lot of physicians, I work with nurses, I work with people in healthcare all over the world. And what I've been really amazed by is that people who have an incredible opportunity and how it is they've chosen their life's work, they've chosen their purpose, and they're the ones who give to others. It's just part of how they're wired. We can sometimes have a tendency towards self-criticism, where we would think, oh my gosh, the way that they give to others, they must be just constantly talking to themselves with all these positive words and all these affirmations, and just the little voice inside is always like, you can do this, you're amazing, you're awesome. Well, that may be, and if that's your way, I'm just, woo, good for you. But research tells us a lot of us who are in this type of world and this type of work have a little bit of a critical voice that says things like, you're still not doing enough. You still could do more. You still need to show up more than you have been. And the way home, I could have done more. I wish I had said this. I wish I'd been better at whatever it is. You know, when we're in empathy burnout, when we're in compassion fatigue, one of the side effects, or one of the symptoms, you can even say, is something where we are calling out ourselves for not being perfect. And we move into something called perfectionism. In fact, studies show right now, perfectionism is becoming the new epidemic. We see it on digital platforms all the time, right? People posting only the good stuff because we want to just say, I'm okay, even when things are not potentially okay. We want to put out the best because we think that's the best thing we could be doing and should be doing. But oftentimes, perfectionism is just covering up the fact that we're wounded, or we're tired, we're burned out, we've got nothing left. And we kind of tighten ourselves and we move into perfectionism to see if we can squeeze any more out, any more giving, any more serving, any more loving. And it goes just the opposite when we go into perfectionism. We actually fast forward the burnout. We actually fast forward the criticism. We actually fast forward the deficiency and then the eventual loss of self-compassion. So just be on the lookout for perfectionism. And my favorite way to overcome perfectionism is simply be a student. Go, oh my gosh, what can I be learning right now? Carol Dwork, who's a professor at Stanford, she wrote a book called Mindset. Highly recommend it. She talks about two different types of people. The ones who have a growth mindset and the ones who have a fixed mindset. And through her decades of research, she says a growth mindset is someone who says every single day, oh my goodness, I am here to be a student of life. It's like when you hear the word disciple, student, it comes from, yes, student being open, but also discipline. Discipline comes from disciple. And discipline sometimes means, it doesn't feel like you're going to be scolded or you're going to be, it's someone's being oppressing you and kind of, saying you messed up. No, discipline simply means to be a student of your life and to pay attention to lessons when you're most alive. And what Carol's research tells us, we are most alive, most happy, least stress, least amount of anxiety, most amount of openness is when we are feeling like a student. Just the opposite is the fixed mindset. And Carol's research says it's when I don't want to mess up. I got to get things perfect. I got to do great all the time because I don't want anyone to know that I don't know it all. And that's a defense mechanism that so many of us have had in our lives, whether it's based on childhood experiences or just being in certain environments where you just felt like you had to have it going on, or you were going to be found out for not having it going on. Well, let me just tell you, for someone who's been in medicine for almost, well over 30 years now, and my goodness, I've had multiple failures in my life. I'm dyslexic on top of all of this. So as a student growing up, multiple failures before I was diagnosed, and then having to learn over and over again ways to read, ways to write. And on top of all those things, I think the humanness that we've all experienced in ourselves these last couple of years has been an opportunity to reclaim and go, wow, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I have seen in the last couple of years parts of myself that I go, oh my goodness, I lost my hope and I didn't know what to do. But you know what? Here we are. Here we are. We're alive. We've got an opportunity to take all the things that we learned over these last couple of years through the challenges we saw and the gratitude that we felt for being here through the experience and learning and growing. And then now what we're feeling, which is, I'm going to take all those lessons and I'm going to employ them. I'm going to integrate them. That's the growth mindset. And there's so much to be gained in that. So much to be gained. So just be on the lookout for perfectionism. Number 8, the beautiful thing about this, yes, we talked about compassion going up, stress going down, but number 10 is the one I love more than any. Studies show that when we recognize that we are feeling that fatigue, feeling that burnout, and we give ourselves any kind of practice that helps us to re-engage our mind and our body and our heart, we elevate something called oxytocin. Oxytocin, O-X-Y-T-O-C-I-N. You've probably heard of this. It's called the love hormone, and it's the hormone of trust. It's the hormone of connection, and it's the hormone of these last couple of years with having a mask on and not having the opportunity to hug the way we're used to, and having social distance and physical distance. Oh my gosh, right? Studies show our oxytocin levels have been down, knocked down. And in that, we've lost a lot of trust. We've lost that connection. But the beauty is, now that we're hopefully feeling that we're kind of on the other side, hopefully we're feeling like we can now see each other's smiles, we're feeling more open to hugging, yes, appropriately, and we're just feeling that sense of, maybe this is an opportunity to heal. Well, all of those things buoy up our oxytocin. So yes, that's building that connection with others, which feels wonderful, doesn't it? But it's also building our self-trust, our ability to say, wow, this is a perfect time for me to say everything that I've learned up until this point, the last couple of years, my whole lifetime, I'm going to be a student. I'm going to have a beginner's mind. I'm going to be celebrating. My celebration is me saying, I'm letting go of the critic. I'm letting go of all the things that do not serve me. I'm actually going to look at all the relationships that I've had with myself. The one that says you're not enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough. The one that holds me back from really moving forward in my life. Each of those relationships. And it sounds like, you can say, gosh, James, sounds like you have a lot of experience with those. Of course, everybody does, right? We've all had experiences with ourselves. And I think all those have come to a head over these last couple of years. And we're saying, I'm going to end this relationship that says I'm not enough. I'm going to end this relationship that says I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm not good enough to have this kind of relationship. And the one I'm going to also end is a relationship with that little voice inside of me who doesn't believe in me. I'm going to ask him or her to go. I'm going to lovingly say, you've been with me long enough, but I'm going to let you go. I'm going to end relationships with all the versions of myself that are not the truth. You know, one of the things that I used to do a lot of work on when I think about some of the folks that I've had the opportunity to coach, we all get to a point in our life, something tragic happens, we lose somebody. We've had just a profound loss. And there's a window where we look at life and all kinds of questions come up. But the one I think that we ask more and more during times of crisis, and I'm not sure what's happening for you right now, but I think all of us are collectively feeling a lot of things, everything from fatigue to hope to a willingness to change, a desire to grow, to evolve, and then hopefully underneath all that, we're just feeling grateful. Howard Thurman once asked this when he said in a beautiful presentation, he said, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Instead, the question needs to be, what makes you come alive? What makes you come alive? Because he said, trust me, what the world needs right now are people who have come alive. The world needs people who have come alive. So ask that question of yourself right now. What is it that's deep inside of you? That purpose-driven part of you? As the Okinawans say, your ikigai, I-K-I-G-A-I. which loosely translated from the Okinawan vernacular, I have a reason to get up in the morning that's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. It's my desire to go out in my world and just express my purpose, to turn my light on, to live up to that voice inside of me that says, oh my goodness, you better believe I want to be in that space of grace. I want to turn on that part of me again. The part of me that has been one time feeling that it never knew whether or not it would be coming back because there was that level of fatigue, there was that level of lack of hope, there was that level of whatever. And now we're starting to say, oh, okay, we've talked about vulnerability today, that we've all admitted this has been the hardest thing for many of us ever. And we're all feeling a sense of hope and gratitude that we're here today. But we're also saying, I'm tired. I still feel a sense of anxiety about the future. I'm still sometimes in that future fear and that past regret. Well, you know what? I am too. But now we are at least starting to open up and talk more and more about it. In the Buddhist faith, they say, name it to tame it. And now we know through neuroscience that one of the hardest things that our mind and our body and our emotions has is when we're overwhelmed with certain emotion and we don't have a word for it. Because when we have a word for it, it helps us to process it. It helps us to make sense of it. And I think over these last couple of years, there's been all kinds of emotion, but we're experiencing a lot of emotion in ways that we've never gone, oh, I've never been here. I don't know what word really fully encompasses what I'm feeling. I don't know how to bring this to a place to make sense of it. So part of vulnerability is just saying, okay, this has been a lot, but I'm not alone. Vulnerability, the birthplace of common humanity. Beginning each day with a sense of opportunity to give ourselves permission to be human. Be a human being before we become a human doing. Practicing the breathing practices. Utilizing the words that help us to capture the emotion. And then, I think one of the most important qualities that we have here at Kensington is that level of oxytocin that is naturally occurring in everything that we do. Because let me share with you, oxytocin has so many beautiful benefits. Yes, it helps us feel trust, and yes, it helps us feel more optimism. Yes, it's going to help us with mental health and physical well-being. But here's what's beautiful. The way that we create oxytocin is through caring for others, caring for ourselves. Being in places where human touch and human connection is deep and rich and authentic. That is why, and I've said this to so many people who I have the opportunity to serve alongside of, people I've come to know and love, my chosen family at Kensington. I said, you know what was so beautiful about this place, this incredible community, is that we naturally have high levels of oxytocin. And because when you have high levels of oxytocin, just due to the community that we are and what we do every single day, we naturally are helping all of our parts physiologically. But here's two things that are happening that are going to really just go, oh my gosh, really? Like this is really? And this is based on Harvard research, neuroeconomics, where they look at different companies, different communities that have high levels of touch and high levels of empathy and high levels of compassion and high levels of caring to the depth that we do. Their levels of oxytocin always pulse at a higher level. And because of that, they help themselves to prevent the kind of burnout that can be truly debilitating. Key distinction. While we are doing this, it's just the recognition that when we're having those challenging times, we say, oh my goodness, wait a second. I'm part of a caring community. I have to give myself permission to lean into that care myself. What we know about oxytocin is that the way that it manifests and builds and becomes a force for us to help protect us and keep us strong is the recognition that we're in it. Self-care, self-awareness, self-acceptance, and leaning into what it is that we have here is one of the primary ways that we actually help prevent the burnout, how we prevent the fatigue. And interesting enough, when we have high levels of oxytocin, we also are fortifying levels of energy making molecules that fortify our cells that literally are associated with giving us sustained energy, helping us to come back, helping us to be more resilient, helping us to be strong. These are all the qualities that I want you to be saying, oh my gosh. So I'm already in a community that has a healing compound that's circulating through all of us. And we've all witnessed it. I've witnessed it from a distance, not even being someone who's in the community day to day, like you are. But it's all about intention, right? When we set an intention every single morning and we say, okay, I'm going to do my breathing practice. I'm going to engage my vagus nerve. I have said to myself, the state of my union right now, I've had my compassion fatigue. I've had my empathy burnout, and I'm here. And I'm going to begin prioritizing with how it is that I utilize the simple practices of owning what's happening, not distancing myself, bringing back in the growth mindset, the opportunity to be a student of what makes me come alive. I ask that question every single morning. What is it that makes me come alive? Because what the world needs are people who have come alive. And we can't make any mistake about this. What we need is to remember what makes us come alive. And there's no question. And I'm going to bring up one more piece before we begin to wrap up this afternoon and this evening's session. When we get ready to end our day, we have our practice for the morning. I want to bring our practice for the evening. Now we have a practice throughout the day. It's that recognition of self-awareness, knowing when I'm in a place where I just need to step away and reconnect with myself, recollect myself. Practices for doing that. When we do a gratitude practice at night, and what we're going to be doing next month when we're together is we are going to be putting this all together in something called a day in the life experience, because we've covered a lot today. And the way we've covered things, right, is number one, is bringing together the community and being open about what it is that we've been through. Number two, looking at simple things that we can do to put words next to this and validate what we've been feeling. Number three, have a practice to help support the recovery of what we validated we're feeling. And now number four, when we bring in gratitude, when we bring in a gratitude practice at the end of each day, it helps us to fortify and integrate and bring forth healing for our mind, for our emotions, for our body, in such a way that literally will set you up the following day so you can be the version of yourself that you're accustomed to being, a version of yourself that you're proud of, a version of yourself that you just love, a version of yourself you're going, oh my gosh, this is how I want my life to be outpictured. And that's not toxic positivity, by the way. That is you being true to you. I've said to many of my patients over the years, we come to a time in life where we don't want to be good. We want to be true. Being true is when we're authentic. Being true is when we're vulnerable. Being true is when we're real. Being true is when we're alive. Being true is when we're free to be that authentic self that we love to be. Being true. So let me just share with you a few things that happen under the influence of saying or writing down a few things we're grateful for. And that's it. If I can give you any sort of homework, a challenge between now and next month, I would love for you to give yourself the opportunity to, before you go to bed at night, before you shut it down and just crawl into bed, hopefully with a smile on your face, you feel a sense of gratitude. I'd like for you just to write down or hold in your mind's eye a few things that you are grateful for. The people that you worked with, the way you felt, the things that you saw, the level of oxytocin because of the things that you were experiencing during your day. And then hopefully you end with your day going, I'm just truly grateful to be alive. Because here's what's going to happen. You'll improve the health of your heart by lowering inflammatory hormones. You're actually going to boost your immune system, which is amazing. So while you're sleeping, you're doing a lot of recovery work and building the strength of your immune system. Number 3, it's going to actually help fortify the relationships that you have, where that level of oxytocin exchange is even greater the following day just by going to bed under the influence of that sense of gratitude. On top of that, you're going to sleep greater, deeper and longer. REM as well as deep sleep is improved. And you're going to find that your level of contagion. Now, when we hear the word contagious, all these last couple of years, it was like, oh my goodness, right? To the highest degree, or oh my goodness, how do I navigate that? Well, hopefully what we're navigating now is how do we use our life, the demonstration of our life, who we are, what we stand for, and every single day, the way that we've chose to show up by loving ourselves deeply, unconditionally. I love to say that I want to move from being a person of unconditional love. I want to be a person who loves myself in all conditions. So therefore I can love others in all conditions. That's what happens. Our love becomes contagious. What we know through science, the most powerful force that makes us attracted to others, that makes us want to follow and emulate and copy others, is how someone leads with love. Love is a form of leadership. It's a form of contagious nature. So who you are, what Kensington is contagious. So when we leave the Kensington community, we go out in the world, people want to say, oh my goodness, I don't know what is about that person, but I just love being around her. I love what he does. I love what they stand for. That is the healing work that we do just by being who we are, by healing ourselves through the force of gratitude, and how it does help us with our mind, our body, our emotions, our spirit, and bringing in that union, that integration, that moving from surviving to thriving. Whew. Wow. I just want you to know that, oh my goodness, we just spent almost 45 minutes together with me just, so hopefully just channeling my zeal and appreciation for who you are. And I hope a few things just kind of landed in your heart and you walk away from our experience together. I thank you so deeply for making time for me today and making time for yourself so I could love on you and serve you. Thank you for that. And I hope as you move out into the world this afternoon, this evening, you're carrying yourself with just a little bit more self-acceptance, a little bit more self-compassion, a little bit more empathy for yourself, because that is a superpower today. And that will allow us all to be more powerful, more beautiful, more transformational for ourselves and the world tomorrow. Thank you. Have a beautiful afternoon, a peaceful evening. Much love, all blessings. Bye for now.